Hey guys, it's Carl. Super quick vid today on a comparison of one of the biggest ones, actually, I should say, of the year. This is the brand new Pixel 7 Pro, of course, from Google, and the iPhone 14 Pro Max. I was gonna say they come in at a similar price, but there's a $200 difference. So this one starts off at $899, of course, on the Pixel side, and $1099 over on the iPhone. That gives you the same storage size, and this was my complaint for these individual phones on their own. I think Pro models should at least come with 256. If you look at the standard Pixel 7 or the standard iPhone 13, those also start at 128 gigs. And since you can't expand the memory, you can only do cloud storage, you are stuck with what you have. Flipping the phones over, they actually have more similar specs here. So they both have 6.7-inch displays, both technically some form of LTPO, which means that they have a variable refresh rate. They go all the way from 1 hertz all the way up to that 120 just to maximize battery life. I will say that the iPhone 14 Pro Max, it has that new always on display. So that actually chews up a ton of battery. Typically iPhones, or I guess the Pro Max models, tend to have some of the best battery. In my full review, I said they only last maybe till the end of the day before I have to juice it up. It's something that I would probably turn off. And over on the Pixel 7 Pro, you just got the black screen, which if that were to save battery for me, I would always have a off, or I guess non-functioning phone. Silicon-wise, they're actually rocking their both own custom OEM chip. So over on the Pixel 7 Pro, I'm gonna keep forgetting that, it is rocking the new G2 Tensor chip, and over on the iPhone, it is the A16 Bionic. So they're both built in-house. In terms of performance, they both feel as quick and as snappy as a flagship or any device that cost over $1,000 should. I haven't found too many hiccups or lags with the Pixel. I know that was a huge issue for the Pixel 6 and Pixel 6 Pro. In the week that I've been testing it, is being consistently smoother, consistently less lags, less stutters, less random app crashing than their previous gen. So as long as Google can keep that up, even when they continue to update this phone, because it's stock Android, once again, the Pixel 6 was plagued with issues that it just could not keep up the pace a year down the road. So as long as Google can maintain this performance, stock Android 13 out of the box, I think they're heading in the right direction. And of course, over on the iPhone, you are rocking iOS. The latest iOS update has actually been really nice. It's been a pretty big refresh. You have things like the updated home screen. It just feels like a more modern version of iOS. And of course, Apple devices, they just work straight out of the box. That's what they're known for. And I would say the biggest difference between them is your operating system of choice. So this is where you get kind of funny. When you get into the iPhone space, if you are stuck over on a MacBook, if you have an Apple Watch, if you have an iPad, you start getting trapped into what people call the Apple black hole. Once you get into that ecosystem, it's not as hard as escaping light from a black hole, but it becomes tough to leave because you get iMessage, you have AirDrop, you have all the things that work so well within the Apple ecosystem. If you're over on Android, and you're texting, say, someone from an iPhone with a green bubble, and that's kind of like the faux pas of tech. But if you're not sucked into that, if you're looking for an Android device, I think this is one of the best that you can currently get right now. Over on to the next thing, which I think will be the biggest deciding factor, is of course the cameras on the back. So technically both have a triple camera setup. They actually have both very similar megapixel counts. So on the main, you've got 48 megapixels on the iPhone, 50 over on the Pixel 7 Pro. Both have ultra wides, both have telephotos. I'm gonna leave some comparison shots and I kind of won't speak my mind until the end. I'll let you guys decide. All of these are unedited, and let's roll them. And in my opinion, I'd have to give the slight bump up in photos, specifically to the Pixel side. Google's computational photography is just phenomenal. I think they nailed dynamic range. The colors, the light reproduction was just I think, a tad bit better on the Pixel, and they still have all of the other features that the iPhone still don't have. So that new feature with that new G2 Tensor chip, of course, unblur. So photos that are slightly blurry or out of focus, you can actually fine tune those in post. All of that is computational. All of that is driven off AI. There was a photo that I took with Link when he was a puppy that was slightly out of focus, and I got so much better results on this versus when I'm on my iPhone, I would have to go into Lightroom or Photoshop, sharpen in post, and the ease of it was just so much better over on the Pixel. They've got other extra features like motion, their night sight photography is better, and with that new G2 chip, they also have that cinematic blur, which gives that background blur for video. Once again, we've seen that cinematic mode on iPhone, but switching to video now, this is a tough one. I have found that the video on the Pixel, for whatever reason, looks slightly soft, even in their 2x crop, which is just binning the Pixel density down from 50 to half of that. It just wasn't as sharp as the telephoto over on the iPhone, and even their new ultra-wide camera, which has this new autofocus feature, would sometimes hunt for autofocus, so just not as easy to use. Even the stabilization on the iPhone, we're not talking about their new Pro stabilization mode, just seemed better. And once again, if you are taking those images into social media, into anything that compresses them a lot, I still cannot get away from going over on iPhone. I know a lot of tech reviewers actually, even if they're team Android, even if they use Android devices, they still upload all of their social media stuff on an iPhone just because of that compression. That's just something that you always have to keep in mind. It's been getting better over on Android. It just still doesn't beat what iPhone has. And I think the next big thing in what people search for in a smartphone is battery life. Honestly, both being new-ish devices, you're still getting a day's solid usage if you're averaging anything over 6 to 7 hours of screen on time, maybe a day and a half depending on your usage, as long as you turn off that always on display on the iPhone. And for the rest of it, there's just these little nitpicky things that you kind of notice. For example, the glass, slightly curved on the Pixel 7 Pro versus flat on the iPhone. You kind of take your pick of which you prefer. I am a flat screen kind of guy, but I know people love how smooth and easy your thumb rolls off a curved piece of glass. The iPhones do have a matte finish, which hides fingerprints a tad bit better than the glossy finish on the back of the Pixels. Of course, colors may be a consideration. Purple is the flagship, whereas over in the Pixel, you have a few less choices, the white, the black, but that new hazel color, I think a lot of people are eyeing, even though most people will protect their devices. If you're interested, check out Dbrand's new skins. They have this new digital camo, and their new grip cases should keep your phones protected, whichever you end up deciding. So in all, it really comes down to personal preference. The size is pretty much identical of the devices. There really isn't too much to discern between them. The straight edges over on the iPhone versus the curved roundness over on the Pixel. I think if you pick either, you'll be pretty happy, but remember, $200 less for the Pixel 7 Pro, and I can guarantee you, just like we see with most Pixel phones, in say 6 months, 7 months down the line, this will be discounted $300-400 compared to the iPhone, which just will always hold the same price. Maybe you might get 50 bucks off your carrier, but usually the price with iPhones is what they'll be until the iPhone 15 comes out. So just to keep that in mind. So like I said, I think it really comes down to ecosystem choice and maybe even accessories choice. Do you already have, say, AirPods? Do you have a pair of the new, say, Google Pixel Buds? If you're already leaning to one side, I think that will help make your choice a bit easier. If you're looking to switch camps, that's definitely a bit more of a toss-up. If you're strictly here for photography, if you love stock Android, if you love customization, still Android does take the cake. It does make it a bit harder to do on iPhones, but these just work so well out of the box. There's a reason why Apple commands that extra Apple tax space. People are willing to pay that extra amount just for their stuff to work. I will give Google huge props for working better this year, but I guess time will tell. If you have any other things that I forgot, let me know down below in the comments, and I'll catch the rest of you in one of my next vids. Peace.